Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of the AAA Hole podcast. I am your host, Andrew AAA Hole Death Witch, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Ozzie The Australian. Say hey to everybody, Ozzie.
G'day, guys.
So today we're going to be talking about, of course, E3 just happened, E3 2019, and Ozzie has some rather unique thoughts on it. We're going to give you our take. We're not going to break everything down because every YouTuber and every channel in the world has already done that. So we're going to cover the highlights, the things that we feel, need to be pointed out and highlighted. And then I got a rant for you. So I hope you look forward to a rant this week. We didn't do one last week. We did kind of a community discussion, but this week, yeah, it's rant time, baby. I got some thoughts and I want to share. But Ozzie, go ahead and share your E3 coverage.
So to begin with, there's not much I can really say about the big conferences because, well, for Bethesda, for Square Enix, for Ubisoft, all three of them had one really major problem, is everything they basically brought were cinematic trailers. Really no gameplay, except for the stuff we kind of already knew about. So, yeah, we knew about Doom Eternal. We knew about some of the other stuff. But there were a few big standouts. What's it called? Watch Dogs Legion looks really good. You're basically taking the whole Watch Dogs thing of the oppressed over technology side from the last few games. You're bringing this to a post-British Brexit, and this is totally political, by the way. They pointed out that, yeah, this highly political topic is non-political.
See, I hate when they do that. I hate when they can't pick a lane. Just like, Far Cry 5 pulled the same crap. You've clearly picked this politically fused future of America to display in your game, and here they're picking another politically infused future of Europe to display in their game, but it's not political. Like, you can't, and I get it. They're trying to sell the game, so they want people on both sides to buy it. But can we just call a spade here? Like, I would expect a company more if it just had the balls to come out and, you know what? This is what we're doing. This is what's happening.
Now, the best thing with Watch Dogs Legion is that there is no main character. Now, I think you're going to be asking, wait, if there's no main character, who do you play? You play everyone. Every NPC that you see walking around this... Well, it's probably not going to be every, because you have the basic gun-toting bad guys that you have to put bullets in. But basically, every NPC you can interact with dialogically, you can actually recruit to be a character. And now this splits it up, so in the last game, one of the biggest problems was the guy could do everything. He was a perfect gunsmith. He could hack into any device. He could sneak around like a ghost.
He was Techno Jesus.
He was Techno Jesus, yes. This isn't the case in Legion. Each character you recruit has their own specific set of skills. So, the big brawling, bare-knuckle boxing bouncer guy that you recruit, he's not going to be able to hack into drones and control them because he doesn't have those skills. So if you have a mission where you've got to do that, you've got to go out into the streets and find and recruit someone who has those skills.
Well, I wasn't a fan of the first two Watchdog games, they didn't seem to know what direction they wanted to take it in. Like, they had a direction for the first one, but it was poorly executed. So then they did a complete 180 for the second one, and that fell flat on its face as well. This one, I'm more interested in. I think they may have nailed the direction if this is done right. It's got the... It's got the... What was the name of that movie? Because it's got the potential to be like that movie where... Remember the movie where there was a murder and...
Minority Report?
No, it wasn't Minority Report, but there was a murder and they were basically going through a court case, but the whole movie was being told through the perspective of 5 different people, how 5 different people witnessed it differently.
Yeah, don't know. I don't know.
Vantage Point, I think, where it was like a bunch of different perspectives on the same... on the same thing happening. And here you have the ability to tell that story where they're all part of the same story, they're all after the same goal, but you could have these storylines or all these characters cross paths and then they end up on the same path and then they branch off, so you can see, all right, well, this guy comes in almost like a techno Avengers. Like, you got this guy for this thing, you got this guy for this thing, and then they come together to form this team. It could work. It's interesting. It's more interesting than, hey, this guy can do everything, or hey, this guy can walk down the street. Like, I can't suspend my disbelief. Our technology just isn't there yet. Like, if you try to ground it in reality to say that if enough people get together, then yes, this is all possible. But no, I don't believe for a second that one guy in the year 2019 could walk down the road with his smartphone and hack into my smartphone, and then turn around and hack into a stoplight, and then turn around and hack into a drone, and then turn around and hack into a security camera, all on his one smartphone, like he's, fucking techno Jesus. No, I don't believe
they also
could do that.
They've also brought that into it as well, that the characters aren't the ones actually doing all the hacking into the various devices. Each one's outfitted with their own little smartphone, and on the smartphone they have this Charlie's Angels, Charlie sort of thing, that does all of that and gives them their orders, and
they have a guy in the chair.
They have a guy in the chair who's basically orchestrating all of this. Now, whether he's AI or whether he's an actual person, we really have no idea because you only ever hear his voice. So, but if he's AI, it's an incredible AI because it responds to what they say in real time. So, I know it's all scripted dialogue, but if you put it into the real world aspect, he's responding to them in real time. So that would have to be a really sophisticated AI.
Yeah, it would. I mean, there's potential there, but it's one of the ones I'm still on the fence about now.
Now, the other thing that might also get you on board is the permadeath aspect. That if one of your recruited characters takes too much damage and dies, they're out completely. They're dead. So if they've got a skill that you need, you have to go find someone else who's got that same sort of set of skills.
Got to go back to the recruitment board. So it's Watchdog meets Fire Emblem. It's
basically
it's Watch Emblems. Fire Dogs.
Yeah.
Fire Dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's more interesting than the takes that they've done so far. But moving on from that.
Moving on from that, as I was saying, that most everything else that was shown throughout the press conferences was all cinematic trailer, no gameplay. And if you're gonna do that, why bother even? Just say that it's coming out and leave it at that, because we're getting the same information no matter what that way.
Well, obviously it's about like at this point, which brings me to the reason I bring E3 into this podcast at all, which is the future of E3, and that brings me to my point. It's about putting on a show at this point. It's not about making an announcement. It's more about building hype for something you already knew. It's putting on a show. It's celebrating something. It's no longer a press conference. And in the future, it's going to be less of that press conference feel and more of just let's build some hype. And there's nothing wrong with a good cinematic trailer, but like you said, you can do that on YouTube. We don't need a fucking press conference or a conference at all to get people hyped for the next Avengers movie. Marvel can just drop a trailer on their YouTube channel and boom, it's done. The hype is there.
Just to go back to my notes, what's actually there that I did actually see that I liked?
I mean, the putting on a show thing is fine. It's why you bring out Keanu Reeves. It's why you show these cinematic trailers. It's why you do that thing. And it's fun, but it's not news anymore.
Yeah, just quickly run for Evil Genius 2's being released. So if you never played Evil Genius 1, what rock have you been living under? It was an awesome indie game and should totally be played. Basically, you play a James Bond villain in a strategy game. So yeah, totally should check that out. Midnight Ghost Hunt. It's a PvP hide and seek where you've got basically 4 ghost hunters, basically Ghostbuster sort of thing. Going into a haunted house and trying to catch 4 players who are ghosts who can hide in objects.
Okay. And that sounds cool. I mean, that's the Ghostbusters game we deserve. Kind of like Dead by Daylight is the Friday the 13th game everyone wanted, but better than the real one. Just like this is going to be better than the real Ghostbusters. Sounds good.
Now it's basically a 30-minute match. 15 minutes, the ghost hunters have all the power, and the ghosts just basically have to hide and just knock out the ghost hunters when and if they get the opportunity. After the 15 minutes and it hits midnight in the game, everything turns around. The ghosts get superpowered. And this is if only one ghost survives, the other 4 come back, or the other 3 come back, and they get super powered up, and the ghost hunters have no way of stopping them from this point, and it basically becomes the hunters become the hunted.
So which would bring me to the question of how, if the Ghostbusters, if what we're calling the Ghost Hunters have no way of winning after that 15-minute mark, have no way of stopping them.
They have to survive. They have to find their way of survival for 15 minutes.
So it's basically one long game of hide and seek where you either find everyone on my team or the tables get turned and now we have to find everyone on your team. Okay.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Baldur's Gate 3 got announced, no gameplay, cinematic trailer. Remnant Ashes from the Ashes looked somewhat good. It's from what I can tell, they did show gameplay trailer, but it's a bit sketchy. From what I could tell, it's basically a Bloodborne visual aesthetic with the gunplay, gameplay sort of thing of a Borderlands.
Okay.
So that actually seems somewhat interesting, and you should check that out. The Avengers from Square Enix, no gameplay, just a long cinematic trailer. Looks interesting. It looks like a Square Enix game. The cinematics are on Final Fantasy 13 or that level of, it's pretty. There's a lot of work gone into the cinematics.
Yeah, well, they've always been good at that. Good enough to make actual movies out of their cinematics, actually. So.
Yeah. So, what the gameplay is, we have no idea, but apparently it's going to be able to be supported for 10 years, is what they're saying.
what is it with these games and their 10-year plans? I mean, very few of them ever actually reach that. They've all made that claim. Remember, Destiny 1 made that claim, and it got, what, maybe 3 years before they launched a sequel?
Yeah.
Destiny 2 has made the same claim, and it's gotten closer to its 10-year mark. But do we honestly believe it's going to make it there? I mean, I don't know. There hasn't been any announcement of a Destiny 3, and they are planning more DLC after this last round of Activision DLC. So maybe they are going to support it for 10 years, but that's a bold claim to make on day one.
Yeah. Before it has even been released.
Right.
And I'll swing back around to the big one we all have known about is coming, Star Wars Fallen Order. From what I saw of the gameplay, it's very much similar to Force Unleashed. Whereas it's the third person, you go around slashing guys with a lightsaber and using your force powers to ruin their day.
Yeah, which is not necessarily a bad thing. This is going to be
That's
one of those
not
games,
necessarily a bad thing.
It's going to be one of those games, though, that survives not on its gameplay. I mean, the gameplay has to be good, and obviously the combat has to be interesting, but the game itself is going to survive on its story. Especially with that story being official canon.
So, but just for being a solo Star Wars game that we haven't had since Force Unleashed 2, I think was the last solo single player Star Wars game. The game looks good from what we've seen so far. It's playable, it's competent. We'll just go with that for now.
So as long as we're talking about existing games, and I know this really isn't necessarily an E3 announcement, but it's out now, and I talked about it a little on stream last night, but I just want to point out that I'm making my predictions now, and I think I'm right. And last night I kind of made those predictions on stream, but I'll say it again here on podcast for the podcast listeners who don't watch the stream. Fallout 76 launched its Battle Royale mode, Nuclear Winter. And I predicted yesterday on stream. I said, you know what? This is the death of the Fallout MMO they were going for. This is going to become just Fallout multiplayer, Fallout Battle Royale. They may introduce some other game modes, but this is going to be all about just Fallout PvP. I know they added NPCs. I know they said they added story and questing and all that stuff that people asked for, and they did, or they're going to, and that's great. But judging by the already staggering popularity of the Battle Royale mode, the devs are going to do, like, I cannot, which I'm probably going to end up making this just a regular segment either on this show or a regular series of videos that I put out on YouTube once a week or whenever I need to. I'm just going to call this segment Vote With Your Wallet, Witches. Just, Jesus Christ. These how you have no right to complain if you don't vote with your wallet. If you're one of the assholes playing and streaming Fallout 76's Battle Royale mode, then you have absolutely no right to complain when that becomes the main focus of the game. We've been down this road already with H1Z1. That started as a survival game. This is literally the same fucking story being replayed with Fallout. H1Z1 started as a survival game. Fallout 76 has started as a survival game. H1Z1 added a Battle Royale mode that they promised was optional. It's just something to do, something to keep you busy while we work on more survival content. Fallout 76 is adding a Battle Royale mode that's just extra. It's just something to do until we add those NPCs until we add that extra content. They add the extra content, but at that point, just like with H1Z1, at that point that they finally added that extra survival content, the Battle Royale mode had become so popular, and 90% of the people streaming the game were streaming the Battle Royale mode, that they start introducing some microtransactions to that Battle Royale mode, some cosmetics, some loot boxes, some unlockables. And then they test the waters and see which one makes more money. And just like with H1Z1, the Battle Royale mode here is going to make more money. So they're going to make it their primary focus. And then eventually, you may even see the survival mode just completely disappear. Like it did with H1Z1. Now, you might not see that with Fallout because Fallout is a brand sold on its story, and H1Z1 didn't have a brand to sell. And if they're going to learn from the mistakes of H1Z1, that was a mistake for H1Z1. I'll say that right now. One, because everyone who paid to fund the game through early access got shafted like me because we wanted the survival game, and what we got was a battle royale game when it officially came out of early access. It was a completely different game coming out of early access than what I paid for. And none of those changes I wanted or most people wanted. It was people who bought in later that wanted that. So us original backers who made the game possible didn't even get the game we paid for. And you're going to see, maybe not see the exact same thing with Fallout 76. They may keep that survival mode, but they're going to drip feed you content through that. And that mode is going to be the something you do while you wait for new content for the Battle Royale mode. The Battle Royale mode is going to become the main focus. It's going to be a separate thing, and this is going to be known as a spin-off game and not an official story prequel to Fallout. And then they'll make their Fallout 6, and then they'll say, hey, if you want a story game, buy this one. If you want the multiplayer experience, that's what 76 is. And they're going to make it about that. And I hate that. But vote with your wallet here, people. Because they're going to chase the money. That's what these companies do. That's what they're here to do. They're here to make money. They don't give a shit what you write on Reddit. They don't give a shit what you tweet at them. They don't give a shit what you say on your live streams or in the forums or in your YouTube videos or in podcasts like mine. They don't give a shit what we have to say. They give a shit what they can make money on. And if you're bitching about the Battle Royale mode, but you're streaming it and you're helping to promote it, and then you're buying cosmetics on it and you're playing it begrudgingly because it's better than nothing. Hey, yeah, remember that didn't roll over so well for Mighty Number 9? Don't let it roll over so well here. Vote with your wallet. Don't stream that shit. Don't help them make money on that shit. Don't give them money for that shit. Stream the other stuff. Because right now you can log into Twitch. I did before I started streaming. You can log into Twitch and you can see 90% of the Fallout 76 streams are people playing the Battle Royale mode. They're turning the Battle Royale mode into a thing. And if all you go on is Twitch streams, and a lot of gamers do, a lot of gamers don't read articles, a lot of gamers don't read Reddit, a lot of gamers don't do that. They just log into Twitch to see what's popular. And if you're one of those people who only logs into Twitch to see what's popular, and you click on Fallout 76 right now, the Battle Royale mode is what you're going to take away from that. So that's what's going to become a thing in Fallout 76. So if you're against that, vote with your wallet here. All right, and that's my little rant about that because that irritates me. But anyway, continue your coverage, Ozzie. I didn't mean to hide you.
And now it's basically just get to Nintendo, because Nintendo basically had the best coverage this year, because guess what? Most of what they showed had actual gameplay. Firstly, we'll cover the two big things most people are going to go nuts over. The two Smash reveals. The hero from Dragon Quest IX. And I think it looks like the other Dragon Quest heroes are going to be alternate costumes, by the looks of it. And also Banjo-Kazooie is coming to Smash. So that would have sent most people creaming their pants.
Not bad picks, but I think if we're going to bring this mascot thing full circle, like the last thing that they need to add, one of these Smash characters they need to reveal if we're going to bring the 90s mascot craze full circle. Now that you got Banjo-Kazooie, you got Sonic, you got Mario, you got Pac-Man, you got all these mascots in the game. Crash Bandicoot.
You want Crash.
Yep, Crash
I kind of saw that coming.
Yeah, that has to be a fucking playable character. I'd even say Rayman, especially since the rabbits have already crossed with Mario. Here's a chance for actual Rayman to make it into a game. But if you're really going to bring the 90s, mascot thing to a fighting game and make it an all-out 90s mascot brawl, then Crash has to make its way in. Come on. Who doesn't want to see Crash in Smash Brothers?
Yeah. It's also, we're getting the Crash Oh, we've got the Insane Trilogy already on the thing. We're also getting Spyro Reignited on the Switch as well.
Yeah, I guess you could put Spyro in a Smash game.
Next thing I saw was that. Were you all ever a fan of that 90s horror film for children called The Dark Crystal?
Yeah, I remember it. I mean,
Yeah.
It wasn't, one of my favorite movies as a kid, but yeah, I remember it.
But also, are you a fan of Final Fantasy Tactics games?
Some of them.
That little
I
grid.
didn't like all of them, but I liked some of them.
Well, they're doing a basically Dark Crystal Tactics game
That sounds
in
interesting.
that Final Fantasy Tactics style.
Sounds interesting. They need to do something to
good.
vary up the gameplay, because that's... The
Yeah.
story for Tactics wasn't interesting enough to keep me playing, and the gameplay didn't really evolve from one sequel to the next, because I played the Tactics games growing up. And after a while, I had the same problem with Tactics that I have with Fire Emblem. I get burnt out on the gameplay because it doesn't change a lot. You know, a Tactics game is a Tactics game. They don't vary up the gameplay a lot. I mean, yeah, they add flashy special moves, but after you've seen them 100 times, you don't care about them anymore. And you got to add more than that. They need to vary up the gameplay some, because they didn't do that enough in the Final Fantasy Tactics games, and the story wasn't compelling enough to make me, slog my way through the same gameplay for the 8th sequel to keep going. So I kind of quit playing. Same thing with Fire Emblem. I kind of quit playing those after a while, because they're real dialogue heavy, and the story got more tolerable when they started adding anime cutscenes and that kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
it just really wasn't interesting. There's a lot of needless dialogue, and it's real kind of the Fire Emblem games to me started to feel rather by the numbers, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I felt the same way about Tactics. So if they're bringing Tactics games back, you got to do more than just scratch that nostalgia itch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it
you got
looks
to mix
like it
things up a
does
bit.
sort of have cinematics and all of that, so it's got a full story
Well, the Dark
within
Crystal
the Dark
theme,
Crystal world.
Yeah, so it being set in the Dark Crystal world and not in the regular Tactics world that they've already built does interest me, because it's different. So that alone is different enough to make me go, okay, I might play this one. So that's good. Anything else on your coverage?
So Secret of Mana Collection came out today. It's 60 Australian dollars, so it would probably be about 40 US.
Yeah, it's 40.
That's good. Trials of Mana, which is the third Secret of Mana game, is getting a HD remake, remastered sort of thing. Looks good.
Yeah, the collection of mana is good. I think it is a bit overpriced, though. I think they're trying to just get some money on that name there. I put it on my wish list. I didn't put it in my cart yet.
Yeah. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt coming to the Switch, which actually didn't think that would come because it's so large and expansive and actual HD looking good.
Yeah, I think they may have it may be one of these deals where they're toning the graphics back, kind of a Skyrim deal where they toned it down some, because Skyrim.
But if they can get it to get it to run, it's a Witcher 3 on the go. You can't complain.
Which isn't bad. I mean, if they can keep a steady frame rate. That's my problem with Skyrim on the Switch is the Bethesda bugs are definitely there.
Resident Evil 5 and 6 coming to the Switch. So
it's a weird choice. 5 was good in a campy kind of way, and 6 was just like it's a budget Resident Evil game, but story was bad. Gameplay wasn't as good as 5. I don't think it didn't have that campy in a good way feel to it, but it didn't have the good story to back it up either.
No More Heroes 3 coming to the Switch looks to have the same gameplay as the other two. I don't really know exactly how they're going to do the controls. Like in the trailer, you see him basically pick up a guy to basically flip him over and smash him into the ground, and you see the commands come up to basically flip him.
Like a quick time event.
Like a quick time, like the old quick time events in the No More Heroes 1 game. And then you also see him fight a guy, and you have the arrow come across to slash, and that. So whether that's going to be on the Joy-Con controls or you can map it to just mouse buttons, I don't know.
Well,
but it's also No More Heroes 3. So.
It would be one of those things where it would depend. Like if they could do it so that the controls are two form, like playing in handheld mode means they take advantage of the Switch's actual touchscreen, and you're slashing at the actual touchscreen.
Oh yeah,
that would be good. But then obviously you wouldn't have that option if you're playing it in docked mode, so they'd have to have either a different button press or prompt for that, like move the joystick or something like that. So.
Contra Rogue Corps, which is a isometric top-down twin-stick shooter for Contra, and actually looks pretty decent. Panzer Dragoon is getting a remastered or port or remastered. Looks quite good, and is going to be out around Christmas time. They didn't give a firm, solid date, but they said winter, which is winter for you guys, which it would be around Christmas.
Yeah.
Astral Chain, which is their new IP. They gave more details on it. Basically, you're using some sort of new technology to basically capture the bad guys from the that you fight, and then you can actually use them in further fights like you would with Pokemon. So you fight them, you weaken them, you capture them, and then you can use them as playable characters. And that's going to be out August 30 this year.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'm all for that.
New IP looks really good. I'm actually quite interested in that.
I'm all for new stuff. Not that remasters and just reboots and all that isn't great. But if you're like me, and I think a lot of the gaming community is, I'm kind of sick of nostalgia. I feel old enough as it is. Give me some new stuff. We're ready for new stuff. We're not ready for the 80th Call of Duty. We're not ready for the 80th Halo. We're past that. I don't need you to... And even though I am excited for Xbox's reboot of Battletoads,
that's one thing I forgot to cover as well. Yeah, Battletoads. That actually got gameplay footage. I actually like that.
That one does look good, but I'd like some new shit now, please. I mean, nostalgia's great, but I still own those old games. When I'm feeling nostalgic, which I have been here recently a lot, I'll just pull out the old games. I'm scratching my nostalgia itch, as I'm sure many gamers will in the future. If you're not already, if you're not a gamer my age and you're one of the younger gamers, don't worry. Your nostalgia time will come. You don't need it right now, because it'll come like it's come for me, where I'm introducing my kids to gaming the way I was introduced. I'm not handing them my PS4 controller or handing them my Switch. I'm handing them a Super Nintendo first. I'm letting them grow up on the same games I grew up on, so they can experience. I think you experience in it better if you start with those 2D games, so that they can experience the evolution of gaming as they get older, as opposed to starting now. And I'm sure games are going to evolve over time now throughout their lifetime, just as they did with ours, but they don't seem to evolve with the leaps and bounds that they did when we were growing up. The leap from 8-bit to 16-bit was highly noticeable, to whereas the leap from Xbox 360 to Xbox One is some few minor changes. Water reflects a little better. Lighting's a little better. Yeah, they're more minute. To whereas the jump from 16-bit to PS1, in 64, jumping from 2D to 3D, that's a huge change. That's VHS to DVD level change, not DVD to Blu-ray. I mean, yeah, that's a change, but a lot of people didn't notice it as much. And I want them to see those leaps and bounds. The closest thing we have right now to those leaps and bounds of jumping from 2D to 3D like we got growing up is the jump from traditional gaming to VR. Which I still do that. I still give them a taste of that. Some of the most hilarious videos that are coming to my Instagram, and if you guys follow me on Twitter and Instagram, you'll see that behind the scenes, off stream stuff, is giving my kids the controllers, the Move controllers, throwing a VR headset on a 5-year-old and watching her go to town on Beat Saber. Fucking hilarious. Sitting them down and letting them experience a roller coaster in VR for the first time is awesome to watch. It just blows a child's mind. More so than it would an adult. Like, that's the kind of reaction you'll never see out of an adult because they legitimately don't quite understand what's happening. But to them, with their level of imagination at the age of 5, they can honestly forget that they're wearing a VR headset. And they believe they're on that roller coaster. Their imagination has put them there. Whereas you put a VR headset on an adult and the sense of danger isn't there for you like it is for a child. Because in the back of your mind, you always know, I'm safe in my living room. So even when you're wearing a VR headset and let's say you're scaling the side of a mountain and you look down, the sense of vertigo is there. You do feel for a minute like you might fall off this mountain and die. But in the back of your mind, you're safe in your living room. So that sense of danger is gone and you're just having fun. When you put it on a child, you put it on a 6-year-old, oh man, she's there, man. She's experiencing it. Her imagination has put her there. She's not just experiencing a game. To her, this is real. And that's amazing to watch. It's great. So speaking of the future of gaming, let's talk about the part of E3 that I need to rant about. The parts we've seen hints of now, but it hasn't come full circle yet. Game streaming. Yeah, Ubisoft announced their own little streaming service, and that's gonna be one of my caveats in this rant. So Google Stadia, which I'm honestly shocked wasn't a big part of E3. I kind of figured they would take center stage on this because they're making some pretty bold ass claims.
It did come up a bit of this is coming to Stadia, this is coming to Stadia, this is also coming to Stadia, but
right. Well,
they never had a presence themselves, but they were there.
Yeah, but that's what I mean is that they didn't make a bigger Stadia of it because it's great to show us what games are coming. And I think that's my issue with this right now and where my rant's going to come in because I've been paying attention to people's reactions to Stadia. And everyone seems focused on the games. And I see so many YouTube channels and so many videos with, I'm not impressed with Stadia. It just hasn't impressed me yet. I don't know if people are going to want this. And I think focusing on the games is bad for Google and they shouldn't do it as much. Yes, the games are important. And they're going to be what helps sell your system. But to get people in the door, you first have to get rid of the stigma that is already around game streaming. Because if what you're promising, and what they're promising is that they can do, it's fucking game changing from a technological standpoint if they can deliver on what they're promising. Now, what they're promising is they are promising 4K gaming streamed directly to your television at 60 frames per second with no input lag on a connection of 35 megabits down. That's it. That's all you need. 35 megabits. Like, why is no one focusing in on this? 35 megabits. If they can deliver 4K gaming at 60 frames per second with no input lag at 35 megabits per second, that's fucking game changing. Right now, Netflix struggles to deliver you 4K streaming television or movies at that internet speed. And there's no input, there's no interaction with that. That's just you watching something. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. Google does have the technological advantage over Netflix and, PlayStation Now and these other streaming services of being built from the ground up for this purpose. So maybe they found a way to do it. Maybe they've invested that much in the technology, and I'll believe they have, because if anyone has the money and the know-how to do it, it's Google. When PlayStation announced PlayStation Now, I remember when it happened because PlayStation Now is using old servers. They bought an old service called OnLive, which was all game streaming, and I used to subscribe to. And it was good, but you had to have really good internet to use it. And then PlayStation bought that company and converted those servers into what is now hosting the PlayStation Now service, which does work. I do like PlayStation Now service a lot because it works. It gives me the ability to see a game and go like that game? Let me try it out. And I don't have to wait for a download. I don't have to invest anything. I just click it, try it. But then again, I have good internet. I have, 500 megabits down. So I got half a gig down. So I can do that. I can just click on any game, play it in HD. And I put it through its paces. I tried just to see how good the input lag was. I put it on the kind of game that requires pinpoint accuracy. Like down to the frame pinpoint accuracy. And I fired up a fighting game. I launched Mortal Kombat X on the PlayStation Now service. And it wasn't perfect. But for the most part, 9 out of 10 matches, it worked. It was minimal lag. I tried offline mode. I tried online mode in the game. It was playable enough to the point where, and again, I'm no fighting game professional, but it was good enough for the average player where I didn't notice a delay between hitting a button and punching. But the PlayStation Now service isn't perfect, where on that 10th match, I would get those lag spikes. My character would kind of dart across the screen, or I'd get some pixelation. I'd get the kind of stuff you wouldn't see in a normal laggy match. And it also introduces lag to single-player content. So I can see the downsides. But again, PlayStation's running on old technology. So then I subscribe to Xbox Game Pass, because you can get the first month of that for $1. And I'm doing all these game streaming, game subscription services to really put them through the ringer and put them through the test. And the Xbox Game Pass is priced right. It's half the price of PlayStation Now. Selection isn't quite as good, but it does give you the option of playing on your PC and your Xbox One. And the games play perfectly, but it's not game streaming. That's the downside at the Xbox Game Pass, is that if I see a game I don't know if I'm going to like or not, and I just want to try, I have to download it first. And one of the issues I see in a lot of the YouTube videos talking about Google Stadia and its streaming services, people start worrying about data caps. Because a lot of ISPs have data caps. So they start worrying about data usage. And you can control that to an extent with Stadia, with game streaming, by lowering your resolution. You don't have to stream the game in 4K. If you're willing to take that hit to save your data, you could drop it down to 1080p. You could drop it down to 720p. And you could save some data there. And according to them, the data seems not that bad. Doesn't seem worse than watching movies on Netflix. But what does eat through your data cap is something like Xbox Game Pass. I don't have a data cap with my internet service, but something like Xbox Game Pass, if I wanted to try a game like, Elder Scrolls Online is on the Xbox Game Pass. We use that one for an example. If I want to try that game, just to download and try it. I don't even know if I'm going to like it yet. I might only play it for 10 minutes. But I have to download the whole game first in order to play it for 10 minutes. And that game is a staggering 96 gigs. That's 96 gigs of your data guaranteed gone for 10 minutes of gameplay. If you decide you don't like the game. An hour of gameplay and you decide you don't like the game. And you want to delete it off your hard drive. So you want to talk data usage. Xbox Game Pass is the worst setup for data usage. It's the best gameplay experience because there's guaranteed no lag and you can play it offline. I think. I don't know if you have to be signed in to validate your subscription, now that I think about it. But you could have the worst internet in the world and have the best gameplay experience with Game Pass because the game's running on your hard drive. But you have to download the entire game. And with hundreds of games to choose from, you're going to be downloading games constantly. Full-fledged games. With a streaming service like Stadia or PlayStation Now, I might play hours of a game, or in some games even beat the entire game. If it's a short game, a 5-6 hour game, there's a good chance I could beat that entire game and never use as much data as it would have taken to download it to begin with. So if data usage is what people are worried about, then they're attacking Stadia for the wrong reason, I think. If Google can come through on its promises, can deliver here what it's promising, then yes, the game lineup is important and it does matter. But what's bigger here is the implications this has on gaming. And this is going to change the landscape of gaming as we know it. And then I'm all for it. I don't get why there's so many people against this. The biggest arguments I see against it so far are data usage. Well, I just debunked that one. I just told you how that one's not helping you. Even if you're buying your games, unless you're buying everything physically, you're still using probably more data than you would streaming because you're downloading these games to your hard drive. And with a lot of games like Destiny 2, even if you bought the physical version of the game, you still got to download all that DLC. Borderlands 3 is going to have a lot of DLC. Borderlands 2 had a lot of DLC. That shit ain't on the disc. Even if you buy the physical media to save your data, you're still going to be downloading DLC. Constantly. For all these games now. It's just the way games work now. So you're using a crap load of data already downloading games. You're probably saving data by streaming it. Okay, so that myth's busted. So let's move on to the next big reason people seem to not be impressed with Stadia and to not be for it. And that's people complaining that they're not buying games anymore. They don't own any of their games if they get them with Stadia, because this is just another way for these corporations to take away our ownership of a game. Hello! You already don't own games. I hate to be the bearer of bad news for you guys and rain on your fucking parade, but you don't own games now. And you haven't for a while. Hey, you know what? I was one of the guys, I'll admit it, who bought Evolve on day one. I paid $60 for that game. I bought Evolve. I should own Evolve, right? You know what I can't do right now? Play Evolve. The game I bought. Because you shut the servers down. Hey, did you buy Battleborn? Are you enjoying Battleborn still? Do you own Battleborn? Oh, that's right. That one got shut down too. You don't own games, and you haven't for a while. There's a lot of games you don't own, and you haven't for a while. I'm not just talking about online-only games either. You know, obviously games like Destiny, you don't... Okay, making sure that was muted. Why isn't... You know, obviously you don't own Destiny. They can shut those fucking servers down any moment. And it's done. So you don't own that game. What about PUBG? Did you buy PUBG? Tell me you can play PUBG without a PUBG server. Go ahead. You don't own PUBG. You own an access pass to a PUBG server. So quit with this crap about needing to physically own a game. You need a physical collection to show off to your friends, put on a little shelf. Fucking buy a printer. And buy some blank DVD cases and print out fucking covers for the games that are on Google Stadia and put them on your shelf. Same fucking experience, guys. If you need a physical reminder of what you have access to on a streaming service, just fucking print out the labels, put them on a blank case and put it on your shelf. Same fucking experience. You don't need a disc to play this shit. You don't own it to begin with. And you never fucking did. That era of gaming, as much as you might hate it and want to rebel against it, it is gone. We do not own games anymore. With some rare exceptions here and there, the indie game market excluded, we don't own games anymore for the most part. Most games you buy are focused on some form of online component. And even if you do own the game and you can put it in your system 20 years from now, like I can put stuff in my Super Nintendo and still play, you're not getting the experience you paid for when you do. Again, with a couple rare exceptions, but even games like Monster Hunter World, then maybe you can put that in your PS4 in 20 years and still play it. But you're not going to get the same experience. That online multiplayer component that the game thrives on is gone in 20 years. So you can't put it in and get the same experience. I mean, sure, I could put Super Metroid in my Super Nintendo right now and get the exact same experience I got as a child, but that era of gaming, that era of buying video games is fucking gone. Even with the games you own, because so many games depend on an online function of some shape, form, or fashion. Like I said, with the exception of the indie game market, and with the exception of Nintendo, who still hasn't learned how the internet works, so most of their games are offline or focus on an offline experience. But since Nintendo games aren't going to be on Stadia anyway, why don't we go to a streaming service? So let's say for a minute that this is going to be the future of gaming, that we do go to a streaming service. Here's my fear here too. That it's going to kind of follow in the footsteps of TV and movie streaming. As it gains popularity, the business itself, the industry itself is going to shoot itself in the foot like we're seeing now. Because it started with Netflix and you had everything. All right. Then came Hulu. So now you've got 2 streaming services. Fine, competition drives the market, makes things better. I'm all for some competition. So you had your Netflix exclusives on Netflix and you had your Hulu exclusives on Hulu. And you bought the service you wanted or you paid for both if you needed everything. But then, well, if you were really going to cut the cord from cable, then you had to get Sling TV or something like that to get your live television channels. Yeah, you got to find a way to get those. All right, so there's another bill. And then these companies started saying, you know what, we're tired of sharing our revenue with Netflix. We're tired of sharing our revenue with Hulu. So we're going to do our own thing. So you got DC pulling its content, making their own streaming service. That apparently didn't last very long. You got Marvel and Disney pulling theirs. They're going to make their own streaming service. CBS. CBS is a pharmacy. They'll probably have a streaming service too. They'll stream the drugs directly into your veins. No, but you got CBS pulling its content, making its own streaming service. And now cutting the cord from cable was supposed to be this thing you did to save money. It's how streaming was supposed to change how we watch television. But because everybody and their mother had to have their own service and their own piece of the pie instead of sharing, in order for a user who's cutting the cord to get the same experience they got with cable without paying for a cable bill, you now have to subscribe to so many separate services that you hadn't saved any money. So why not go back to the cable company? And because it's becoming so fractured, these companies end up losing money. They're going to shut their streaming services down, and everyone's going to end up going back to cable just out of frustration. So I worry with that for the gaming industry. And we're already kind of starting to see it. You got Xbox Game Pass. So Xbox is doing its thing. PlayStation's got PlayStation Now. PlayStation's doing its thing, which is fine. The major companies, fine. Because we're already used to that. Google can just be the third player, since Nintendo is apparently not going to do it. So people are already used to that, choosing Xbox or PlayStation or, whatever, choosing their console and that being their console. But then you're seeing it with the developers too. EA's got Origin and Access, bringing that to consoles, so you have to pay for EA Access to get your EA games. Oh, now Ubisoft's doing one. That's a real thing already. They're doing their own streaming service. Now you got to go to Ubisoft streaming service to play your Ubisoft's games, to get your Assassin's Creed, Ghost Recon. Now you got to go there for that. Oh, Rockstar's going to make one next. Want that next Grand Theft Auto? Want that next?
I reckon Activision Blizzard would be the next.
Yeah, they'll probably do one too. You want your next Call of Duty? You know, I'm just naming all of the big names that could do it, and how the future of this could go, and how it could be bad. I want this to work. I want this to take off, because as a gamer, you should be more excited for this. All these YouTube videos and all these people who are pushing against Google Stadia and like rooting for it to fail. Why? As a consumer, why would you want this to fail? You should want this to succeed, but succeed the right way, because this is good for you. If they can deliver on what they promised with the, needing a 20 megabyte connection on internet to play a game in 1080p, which is what the average gamer plays at, by the way. Well, that's the average. That's the worldwide average for internet. Fuck, if we're just going to stick with America right now, that's the nationwide average. Like, even in rural bumfuck America, you can still get 20 megabits down. It's only like 10% of the country that can't get at least that speed. Like, even DSL can handle that. So it's only like 10% of the country there that wouldn't be able to get that speed. And you're talking like Alaska here. Like, you're talking like you got to go way out in the middle of nowhere to not get those speeds. So if that's their target market, yeah, that was another one of the myths, as everyone was worried that, okay, well, who's this for? Because you must have to have really good internet. Most of the country doesn't have the internet to support this. Well, if they can deliver on their promises, yes, most of the country does have the internet to support it. So as a gamer, you should be pushing for this. You should be fucking wanting this, because we're coming up on another console generation right now. We're coming up on the next Xbox, the next PlayStation, the next round of shit for you to buy. And Google Stadia is among them. And as a gamer, do you honestly expect me to believe that this is what you want? That this is what the average gamer wants? The average gamer wants to spend another $400 to $500 on a console because it's new console time. That the average gamer wants to spend another $60 a pop per video game to play the new games on day one. And be nickel and dime to death with DLC in those games and microtransactions, because you are. So if that's the path we're going down anyway, as a gamer, this is better for you. There is no hardware to buy with Stadia. I mean, yeah, the Founders Edition comes with the Chromecast Ultra, but that's all you need. In the future, you won't even need that. They're going to have a smartphone app. They're going to have a tablet app. You can already play it in a Chrome web browser, they said on day one. So there's no hardware to buy. Any Bluetooth controller, and any access to Chrome, whether it be a Chromecast or a Chrome web browser, and you can get your game on. And no games to buy. So no more paying $60 to play a game on day one. You pay your $10 a month, and you get most of the games on day one. There's still going to be some you got to buy. Obviously, they're going to be testing the waters with finding a way to, get these companies paid so that you don't have to pay $60. But if they do it right, and I think going with a YouTube model and sharing some ad revenue by putting these games on a streaming service, making you watch an ad between games, or making you watch an ad every so many hours of gameplay, have an ad take the place of a loading screen. Something like that. Instead of staring at a loading screen for 20 seconds, show me a 20-second ad. Sure, I'm fine with that. I've missed no gameplay. And I get less microtransactions and, bullshit in my game because these companies are getting paid per ad watched while their game is running. Just like YouTubers get paid per ad watched while their video is playing. And if anyone can nail down that business model, yeah, it's Google. They already do it with YouTube. And I'd say they're pretty fucking successful with it. They've nailed it. They figured it out. So if anyone can make a streaming service work where the companies get paid and you can make your gaming a better place, as a gamer, you should be excited for this. You should want this. I know I sound like a Stadia spokesperson right now, but it's because I have been very interested in advocating for streaming as the future of gaming ever since OnLive hit the market, back when it first became a thing. Because I used to subscribe to OnLive, and even though it was a bare bones service, it had a lot of potential. And I've seen this potential for a long time. And I've seen it get better over time, to the point where I do believe Google may be able to pull off what they're promising. I've seen it progressively getting better. And then there'd be no more hardware for you to buy. There'll be no more console generations. No more waiting 5 years for games to improve because they're being held back by arbitrary hardware restrictions. Games will just get progressively better over time. You won't have to wait 5 years to see the next jump in graphics. Companies can just do it when they can do it, when they figure out how to do it. And it'll be Google's responsibility to keep their hardware up to date to keep up with these new games. And you won't have anything to buy. Nothing draining your wallet. No more console wars. Games are going to improve because in order to make money on those games, they're going to have to keep you in that game long enough to watch those ads if they're going to put ads in them and make ad money. No more pre-orders. No more taking your money before the game comes out. No more selling you a dream. They have to start making their money on the quality of the game alone. As a gamer, how can you not fucking be excited for that? I really don't understand. I don't understand the YouTube channels who are not impressed by it. From a technological standpoint, it's game-changing. You should be impressed with that alone. Now, if they're blowing smoke up our ass and it can't deliver on what it's promising, then yeah, lay into them. But giving them the benefit of the doubt and saying maybe they can pull it off, yeah, I'm excited for it, and you should be too. Yeah, I'm fucking impressed by it, and you should be too. For the implications that this has on gaming as a whole is another thing you should be excited for. For all the reasons I just mentioned. Better games, better gameplay experience, less monetization in said games because now they can make their money on, maybe they get a cut of the subscription. Maybe they get a cut of the advertising. And that's what I hope for. I hope it's an advertising thing. I know we don't want ads in our games. But there's several ways they can make money in advertising with their games. One, the way I mentioned, where they get ad money from Google by putting their game on the subscription service instead of selling it separately. And then they get money from Google based on downloads and, number of people who watch ads while playing a game. And then you throw an ad in between, over top of a loading screen. You know how many fucking ads you could have put there in an Anthem loading screen? And it would have been more interesting than staring at Anthem's loading screen? Holy fuck! You wouldn't need any microtransactions in Anthem. And they could make money directly from advertisers with product placement in the game itself. Because if you focus on streaming, then it becomes all about you playing the game. Not you purchasing, not you pre-ordering, not you coughing up money and then saying, well, now we'll update it when we update it. It'll be game focused. And that's what we want. We want these companies focused on the quality of the game and not on how to milk us dry. So for that reason alone, you should be excited for streaming. I've already pre-ordered my Stadia. I know I usually don't pre-order. But I want to back this. And while I don't usually agree with pre-ordering, it is hardware. So there's a chance they may sell out of it. And that's the reason you pre-order something, is so it doesn't sell out. I would never pre-order something that's all digital. But I do want to be able to have my controller. I do want one of their controllers. And I've been meaning to buy a Chromecast Ultra anyway. So it's a win-win for me. I'm going to use it no matter what. And pre-ordering means I don't have to worry about the controller selling out and not being able to get my hands on it. So pre-ordering here does make sense. By all means, pre-order this. Back it. Give it a chance. Because if this is successful, gaming gets better for everyone. Because I'm tired of buying consoles. I'm tired of upgrading my PC. With a few exceptions, something like Nintendo, I didn't mind buying my Switch. There's a lot of love for my Switch here because it is portable. But, so will Stadia. You should be able to play it anywhere. 20 megabits down, I mean, fuck, 10 megabits down is all you need for 720p. That's 4G speeds. Play that on mobile data. Wi-Fi at a Starbucks. So, I guess it's portable too. But Nintendo gets my money for their consoles usually because I like Nintendo games. I know it's the only way I'm going to get it. If you are listening to Nintendo, you should stop making consoles and just jump on the streaming bandwagon. And if this does take off and it becomes successful and we're worried about the thing I said I was just worried about, which I know we're over an hour, so I need to be wrapping up this rant in this podcast. But if we're worried about what I said we would be worried about, where every company has to have their own streaming service, don't subscribe to the other company's streaming services. And let them see the numbers. This will be another episode. You get 2 episodes in one podcast. How about that? 2 episodes of Vote With Your Wallet, because this will be where you vote with your wallet there. Only subscribe to Stadia, or only subscribe to one streaming service. Don't subscribe to multiple. And Stadia, if you're listening, find a way to pay these game companies, these developers, these publishers, find a way to pay them based on, ad revenue in the game, like you do with YouTube. So these companies can see that they make more money by having their game on your streaming service than by putting it on their own. Show them that they can make more money in ad revenue than they can make in microtransactions. And help make gaming a better place. I know ads suck. I don't like them on YouTube. I know we wouldn't like them in our game. But it's like an election here. You guys are having to choose between a douche or a turd sandwich. Let's just choose the lesser of two evils here. Ads. Because while ads are inconvenient and do kind of suck, they're better than having parts of our game gated off behind a paywall or microtransaction. Putting a grind in a game that has no business having a grind in it so that you can have something to buy microtransactions on. To lessen the grind. So, let's just embrace the ads on this one. Let's take the lesser of two evils. Because while they're inconvenient, they are free. They don't cost you anything to watch. And if you put them cleverly in the game placed right during loading screens and whatnot, then they don't even cost you any time, because that's time you would have spent on a loading screen anyway. So it's a win-win. I want this to happen. I want this to be a thing so bad, and I want to know your thoughts. Email me, deathwitch@gmail.com, and we'll talk about it during the next podcast. I'll read your comments. Looks like we do got some comments here on Twitch real quick, which I know we weren't doing a discussion this podcast, but I'll go over a few of your comments before I end the podcast. Let's see. We got, my issue is Stadia is outrageously pretending like you can run it perfectly fine with internet of a hut in the middle of nowhere in Africa. Yeah, well, that's what I said. I said if they can deliver on that promise, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they have the technology for it. I mean,
if they can't, then people will know straight away.
Yeah, so they better hit the ground running with this. I mean, they've made some pretty bold claims, and it's time to deliver on said claims. And I hope they can. And I think if any company can do it, it's Google. They've been providing Google Fiber to most of the country here and expanding rapidly. They put fucking satellites in space so that we could have Google Earth. I mean, if anyone can do the impossible, remember back when Google announced Google Earth and said, we're going to map the fucking planet? Everybody fucking laughed at them like they were crazy. They pulled that shit off. They've mapped the planet down to, you can click on anywhere on the fucking globe right now and street view it. Just the amount of pictures they had to send people around in cars to take to map the entire fucking planet down to street level. Yeah, they've done the impossible before. So they've earned my benefit of the doubt here. I think they've earned yours too. So I understand everyone's skepticism. I do, because it sounds like what they're asking is impossible. But again, this is a company with a reputation of doing the impossible. So, fingers crossed they pull it off. Because I do want to see this become a thing, and I hope you do too. So again, send me your comments. Thank you for listening, everybody. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the AAA Hole podcast. Say bye to everybody. Ozzie, we're calling it a night.
Later, guys.
See you next week, guys. Thanks for listening. Send me those comments. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.